Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving headfirst into the staggering scale and the strict mechanics of India's UPSC Civil Services Examination. If you've ever wondered exactly what it takes to navigate one of the most intensely competitive testing environments literally anywhere on the planet, well, you are definitely in the right place. We aren't just going to sit here and talk about how hard it is, we're actually going to look under the hood at the real data and the bureaucratic machinery behind the selection of India's top administrators.
So here's a quick look at our agenda for today. We'll kick things off with the 1 in 1,000, run through the rules of the game, and then break down surviving the 3 stages. Finally, we'll look at the final tally and what life after selection actually looks like. Let's get into it.
Section 1. The 1 in 1,000. Yes, you are reading that right. Your odds of clearing this exam are roughly 0.10%. To put that into perspective, that means only about 1 in 1,000 applicants successfully makes it all the way to the final recommendation list. When you hear a percentage like that, it sounds absolutely intimidating, right? I mean, it's a fraction of a percent. But the reality of that number requires just a little bit more context to truly understand what's happening at the starting line.
See, there's a massive gap between intention and action here. If you look at the 2024 exam data, nearly 1 million people, 9.92 lakh to be exact, registered for the exam. But only 5.83 lakh actually showed up on test day. The very first massive filter in the UPSC is, believe it or not, self-elimination. Nearly 41% of applicants literally drop out before they even sit for the first test. A lot of people apply just to kind of test the waters, or they realize they lack confidence in their prep, or they just totally underestimate the sheer size of the syllabus. So right off the bat, your competition is nearly cut in half.
And that brings us to a really crucial realization. The exam shouldn't be viewed as impossible, but rather as a statistical game. If you go in and just prepare randomly, yeah, your odds match that 0.1% average. But if you rely on a structured strategy, if you rigorously practice answer writing and actively target your weak areas, you dramatically improve your position within this giant statistical funnel. Your real competition isn't 1 million people, it's the disciplined fraction who prepare smartly.
Section 2. Rules of the game.
Before you ever crack open a textbook, you've got to get past the rule book. These are your absolute foundational requirements. First, you must be a minimum of 21 years old by August 1st of the exam year. You also need to hold a graduation degree from a government-recognized university. And this is absolutely crucial. If you're aiming for the top-tier Indian Administrative Service or the Indian Police Service, you have to be a citizen of India. Without meeting these baseline criteria, well, your journey ends before it even begins.
Now, the UPSC strictly regulates how long you can actually stay in the game. A general category candidate can attempt the exam up to 6 times until age 32. For OBC candidates, there's a 3-year age relaxation to 35, along with 9 attempts. And for SC/ST candidates, the age limit extends to 37, with unlimited attempts up until that age. And here's a super vital piece of strategy to remember. An attempt is only officially counted when you actually sit in the examination hall for the preliminary exam. Merely filling out the form online doesn't burn one of your precious attempts.
Section 3. Surviving the 3 stages.
Okay, so you check all the boxes for eligibility. You are now cleared to face the famous 3-stage filter, which is engineered to aggressively narrow down the field at every single turn. Every candidate has to sequentially survive these 3 trials. You start with the preliminary exam, which is a multiple-choice test. Clear that, and you advance to the written mains, demanding deep, analytical, essay-style answers. Survive that, and you're called to New Delhi for the final personality test, which most people just call the interview, where a board evaluates your overall administrative temperament and ethical clarity.
Now, a lot of candidates totally dread the mains or the interview, but statistically speaking, the prelims is the most brutal filter of the entire process. It eliminates a staggering 97.5% of the candidates who show up on exam day. It aggressively tests accuracy, time management, and intelligent elimination techniques. Rote memorization is just not going to save you here. Only ruthless efficiency will.
Let's look at how this actually translates into the physical funnel. Checking out the 2024-2025 cycle data, out of the 5.8 lakh people who sat for prelims, only 14,627 qualified for mains. Then the funnel tightens drastically once again. Only about 19% of the people who wrote the mains progressed to the interview. That left just 2,845 candidates fighting for those final, highly coveted slots.
A critical, and I mean absolute game-changer strategic component of surviving that tight main stage is the selection of your optional subject.
While there are several compulsory general studies papers you have to take, you get to choose exactly one optional subject. But here's the catch. That single subject accounts for two distinct, heavily weighted papers in the mains. It's very often the deciding factor in whether a candidate makes the cut for the interview or goes home.
So you might be wondering, what do people pick? While there's a distinct strategy behind choosing these subjects, candidates consistently gravitate towards anthropology, sociology, public administration, history, and geography. Why? Because these aren't just interesting fields to study, they have a very high degree of overlap with the compulsory general studies syllabus. Choosing one of these means your study time does double duty, making your entire preparation vastly more efficient.
Section 4. The final tally. Okay, let's say you've done it. You've beaten the 97.5% prelims drop, you conquered the mains, and you totally charmed the interview board. On March 6, 2026, the UPSC released the final results for the 2025 exam. The government reported 1087 vacancies. But wait, if you look at the final merit list, it only had 958 names on it. So what's going on here? Where did those other 129 jobs go? Well, this discrepancy brings us to a vital, yet often misunderstood, bureaucratic mechanism. The UPSC ensures that absolutely no seat is ever wasted by maintaining what they call a consolidated reserve list. In 2025, they kept 258 backup candidates on this list. See, some of those initial 958 selectees, they might fail their medical tests, or they might run into issues with document verification regarding their category claims, or, believe it or not, they might simply choose not to join the service. So, as those initial candidates drop out, the UPSC dips right into this reserve list to fill the remaining vacancies perfectly. Now, for the folks who did make the immediate cut, those 1,087 vacancies are distributed pretty unevenly. The most famous services are incredibly scarce. We're talking only 180 slots for the IAS, 150 for the IPS, and a tiny 55 for the Indian Foreign Service. The bulk of the remaining positions fall into various central Group A and Group B services. This is why every single rank matters when it comes to actually getting the service you want.
Section 5. Life after selection.
So, what actually happens to those few hundred people who conquer the odds, beat that massive funnel, and see their name printed on the final merit list? Well, the exam might be over, but the onboarding process is really just beginning. Before any real celebrations can kick off, candidates have to navigate strict document verification handled by the Department of Personnel and Training. Once they're cleared, they undergo service allocation, which depends heavily on their rank, their stated preferences, and category reservation rules. Finally, for those lucky enough to get the IAS and IPS, there's cadre allocation, where they're officially assigned to the specific state they're going to serve in. And then, the journey truly culminates in training. Almost all officers begin together with a shared foundation course, up at the Lal Bahadur Shastri National Academy of Administration in Missouri. It's an amazing time for cross-service bonding. But after that foundation, they split up. IPS officers head off to the National Police Academy. IFS officers go to the Institute of Foreign Service, and so on. It's here they officially transition from candidates to professional administrators.
The sheer numbers of the UPSC are, without a doubt, intimidating. 1 million applications for just about 1,000 jobs. But as we've seen through this explainer, it isn't just a lottery. It's a highly structured gauntlet of strict eligibility, brutal eliminations, and crucial strategic choices. So the real question isn't whether you have the stamina to read endless books. The real question is, do you have the precise, disciplined strategy required to navigate this funnel and become the 1 in 1,000? Or are you destined to be just another statistic? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Catch you next time.